the first national park established in the United States. 3,472 square miles of wilderness. A beautiful region, known for its wildlife and geothermal features. Yellowstone National Park, Geyser Safety and Evacuation. My name is Amelia Emery. The intended audience of this video is my family, friends, and classmates. The challenge in Yellowstone is the thermal areas, and the people who come to visit these features are putting themselves at risk. The main concern of Yellowstone National Park is keeping visitors safe while enjoying the beautiful landscape. Yellowstone National Park has parklands located in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Most of the park is within northwestern Wyoming. Yellowstone was constituted by President Ulysses S. Grant on March 1, 1872. The park is renowned for its natural features, such as Mammoth Hot Springs, Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, Yellowstone Lake, and the geyser basins. The naturally beautiful scenic wonders are sure to take your breath away. It creates a lasting impression for you and your family, but it can be deadly. Yellowstone National Park protects and preserves the world's most extraordinary collection of hot springs, geysers, fumaroles, mud pots, and travertine terraces. More than 10,000 hydrothermal features are found in Yellowstone, of which more than 500 features are geysers. In Yellowstone, hot springs have killed or injured more people than any other natural feature within the park. Staying on boardwalks and designated trails in thermal areas is the best way to keep your family and yourself safe, as well as the delicate thermal formations. Signs have been posted in the park since at least 1888, providing warnings for the park visitors, but they have been regularly ignored for years. The National Park Service puts out these guidelines and rules to protect the park features and provide safety for all its visitors. Hot springs contain water that can cause severe or even fatal burns. Most of the scalding water is actually hidden from sight and is beneath the thin, breakable crust around hot springs. The pools can reach temperatures of up to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. This is enough heat to cause third-degree burns in seconds. More than 20 people have died from burns they have sustained after entering or falling into one of Yellowstone's hot springs. The people who have survived a dip in a hot spring have emerged with peeling skin and their eyes have become blinded from the heat. You are more likely to die or get injured from a car accident within the park than you are to die from hot spring-related injuries or burns. In recent news, Steamboat Geyser has been very active in the past year. Steamboat Geyser has been dormant for years, and when it is active, it is very unpredictable, unlike Old Faithful, which erupts roughly every hour. Eruptions at Old Faithful last around 1.5 minutes up to 5 minutes. The geyser erupts around 17 times a day and expels 3,700 gallons of water for a short eruption of 1.5 minutes, and expels up to 8,400 gallons of water for a longer duration of 4.5 minutes. In 2017, there was a total of 4.1 million visitors that had entered the park within the peak months. Those peak months start in May and end in October. On average, during the peak months, the amount of visitors per day is approximately 21,500 people. Because of the recent activity of Steamboat Geyser, people have started thinking about what lies beneath the surface of Yellowstone.
Yellowstone National Park, an underground supervolcano, is drawing visitors hoping for a different kind of eruption. A geyser that is usually dormant has shot off over and over again. Jamie Yuka shows us how volcanic activity under the park is producing a spectacular water show.
Yellowstone is as beautiful as it is unpredictable. More than 3,000 square miles of hot springs, mud volcanoes, and of course, geysers. Old Faithful may be the park's most famous, but Steamboat is now grabbing the spotlight as the world's largest active geyser.
We see gas emissions, we see all kinds of thermal activity. That's what Yellowstone does. It's one of the most dynamic places on Earth.
Steamboat has erupted 10 times in 3 months. Prior to that, it erupted just 10 times in 27 years. But volcanologists like Wendy Stovall don't know why there's now so much activity at Steamboat.
I think when people start hearing that, Steamboat Geyser's going off, in the back of their mind they think, oh my gosh, what if the big one happens?
Right. There's been a lot of hype about the supervolcano of Yellowstone and the potential for a super eruption.
Because this geyser field at Yellowstone National Park lies on top of an active volcano with multiple chambers of magma from deep beneath the earth, an explosion means lava flows could cover several states. The explosion would send ash clouds as far as Chicago, Seattle, and Los Angeles. The good news? The last one happened 70,000 years ago.
There's no evidence that we can see from all of the monitoring equipment that we have that there will be a super eruption anytime soon.
But that doesn't stop volcanologists from collecting data on the Yellowstone plumbing system, a 50-mile-wide magma field. Scientists also monitor 28 seismographs stationed throughout the park because a supervolcano would include major earthquake activity. So far, nothing indicates danger.
If people are worried about that happening in their lifetimes, I think they may be focused on the wrong sorts of things.
That's why Steamboat's calling card these days isn't gloom and doom. It's the chance to see something spectacular.
Eruptions are always fun.
Parents Isabella and Brock Duclos are starting daughter Valette early, bringing the 1-year-old to see Steamboat, even with mom 8 months pregnant.
It could go 300 feet in the air. That
That would be a little
would be
scary.
amazing.
So even without a super volcanic blast, there's a super interest in science.
This is amazing. This is a nerd's paradise.
Is this like your Super Bowl?
Yes. This is so much better.
For CBS This Morning, Jamie Yukas, Yellowstone.
Yellowstone's volcanic and hydrothermal history proposes the potential for several kinds of eruptions in the future. The type of eruption that will occur in the future can be judged by how often eruptions have occurred in the past. The type of eruption that would be the most likely to happen would not be volcanic, but rather hydrothermal. Hydrothermal eruptions are small, but explosive. An example of a violent hydrothermal eruption would be the Excelsior Geyser. This geyser last erupted on September 14, 1985. The water rose 50 to 300 feet high, and there were 47 hours of major eruptions. Hydrothermal explosions are independent of volcanism. The deeper magma system seems to be unaffected by these spectacular steam explosions. The type of volcanic eruption most likely to occur at Yellowstone would produce lava flows of rhyolite or basalt. This would cause significant volcanic activity and produce flows that would stay within the park boundaries. An eruption of lava could cause widespread chaos in the park. This could include forest fires and the destruction of roads, cutting off the access to escape routes. These lava flows could also include explosive phases that would produce a large magnitude of volcanic ash and pumice. Yellowstone is one of the only parks that sits on top of an active volcano. The volcano is actually a prominent hotspot beneath the continental crust. As a result of this hotspot, an eruption occurred. This eruption happened about 600,000 years ago. The massive volcanic eruption created a crater 45 by 30 miles across. This crater is called a caldera. This event was not the first time an eruption over this hotspot has occurred, and it won't be the last. The least likely eruption that could occur would be a caldera-causing event. One of these eruptions would produce immense pyroclastic flows. If another caldera-forming eruption were to occur, it would likely have an effect on the global weather patterns and agricultural production. It is thought that the last time an event of this magnitude occurred in Yellowstone, the aftermath of the eruption wiped out 2/3 of the animal and plant species in the northern hemisphere. If you were within the park when something like this occurred, you would most likely not survive.
Oh my God.
If any volcanic event were to occur in the park, how would you evacuate all the visitors? Yellowstone National Park has 5 entrances to the park, all of which are 2-lane highways. The Beartooth Pass is one of the 5. It is an extremely mountainous region. The road has multiple switchbacks. The elevation of the road starts at approximately 6,400 feet, and the road ends with an elevation of 7,500 feet, but the road rises to the highest point between the other elevations. The highest point in the Beartooth Pass has an elevation of 10,947 feet. Most of the roads within the park are treacherous and the terrain will not allow you to travel at high speeds. The catastrophic explosion of Yellowstone National Park would require the evacuation not only of the park and Wyoming, but of the western United States. Because of this potential threat, Yellowstone National Park is one of the most heavily monitored areas in the country. It is believed many months of warning could be provided for an eruption, but luckily the probability of such an event is estimated to be less than 1 in 1 million. This type of eruption has occurred in the past, and using the geologic history, we can find out how the park has come to be as we know it now. About 541 million years ago, much of the western United States was covered by ocean, tidal flats, sand dunes, and vast plains. Then, approximately 66 million years ago, the mountain building process began along with volcanism, faulting, and glacial periods. When caldera-forming eruptions occurred in the past 2.1 million years, the explosion spread enormous volumes of hot pyroclastic flows. These flows traveled over vast areas of the park within days or weeks. The rock fragments from the pyroclastic flows welded together from the weight of the overlying ash, which eventually turned into rock. Today, these are called ash flow tuffs. Mount Everest, near Mammoth Hot Springs, has 2 different exposures formed from 2 separate ash flows, nearly 1.5 million years apart. After the caldera eruption 600,000 years ago, the magma chamber beneath Yellowstone emptied, and the ground above it sunk. Over time, the magma has returned into the magma chamber. Today, the pressure from the magma has created resurgent domes. The National Park Service now tracks Yellowstone's volcanic and seismic activity throughout the park. The Norris Geyser Basin is known to be highly dynamic and is associated with inflation and deflation of the Yellowstone caldera. I have visited Yellowstone National Park twice, and I would highly recommend if you have not seen this beautiful, breathtaking park. You need to go explore its natural beauty, even if there are risks and challenges within the park.